Hey everyone, this is the next video in our series about API gateway in microservices architecture. We are covering Netflix Zuul, right? So we have covered a few videos about this, and this is time we cover filters in Netflix Zuul, right? So just to brief you, if you want to cover the previous topics, if you have not covered that, so this is the official channel where I am uploading the video. This is the playlist. Total three videos we have covered, and this is the source code that I am explaining. And this video we are going to cover the demo about filters, how we can create that and how we can use that, right? So I have already told you what are filters, and there are of different kinds of filters: pre, post, error, route, and custom filters. If you want to write that, there are some properties of these filters, like they have some type, they have execution order, criteria, and action. These are the methods, and these are the properties of the filters that you define when you are writing your filters using the existing filter, right? So just move quickly to the demo part that I have. Okay, so if you remember, this is the application that we are focusing on. This is the API gateway. Basically here we are configured Joule, and these are the different services that we are calling from a driver service. Just we have named it front end dashboard. In our application, this is the REST service, right? REST service, which is calling further these services, right? From this API gateway, we are calling all these services. These are running on different, as this is the single window machine, so these are running on different ports, and our API gateway is also running on a single port, and we are accessing all of these services through this API gateway only. So we do not need to the exact address of these services, but the API gateway address, and we will be able to access these services, right? So jump into the IntelliJ IDEA and see what is it. This is the portal gateway that we have, right? So if you remember, this is the where is it? So this is the main application. Enable Joule proxy annotation is the main thing, which is making our service as API gateway, right? So, and here we have some configurations, token and mapping. So doctor service, it is calling the 802. Basically at this address, doctor service is running, patient service is running, and disease service is running, and this is the key with which it is mapped, and we are accessing that, right? So in this video we are going to create some filters, right? So let me explain you what is this. So we are focusing on pre-filter first of all, right? So this is the pre-filter that I already have written, right? So this is the simple class only. Okay, we have written just Joule filter, right? So let me remove the things and make it clear how we have written this, right? So now this is the normal class, pre-filter class that I have created, and to create make it as a Joule filter, I have to extend a class that is there, Joule filter. And the moment I have, so if I go to this filter, this is implementing iJoule filter and comparable, right? So Joule filter had some method, filter type, filter order, and it is static filter and all these things, right? I have to implement those methods. And if you're using IntelliJ IDEA, if you go here and then you will get the option to implement methods, right? So just click on this and it will copy java doc, no, insert override. Okay, all right. So oh, click OK. So it will automatically give you the methods that you want to, that you have to implement. So it has filter type, filter order, should filter, and run, right? Run is returning null. So if you remember the stat characteristics of the filters, you have type, execution order, criteria, and action. So type of the filter is this, filter order is the execution order, right? And this should filter, which will contain the condition to pick this filter, is the criteria, and action, run, is the action. If this filter is picked, anything inside run is going to execute, right, before calling the actual service. So let me, so this is the thing that you have. So we have, this is the pre-filter. So we have to configure it to return as pre-filter order. We can configure it one. Should filter, yes, it should filter. So I'm directly mentioning the true. You can have some custom logic. You can have more than one pre-filter, and you can mention the execution order 1 2 3 4. So you have you suppose you have 4 filter types, right? So you can decide the priority, which filter to come first. So that priority is going to define here, right? Pre 1 2 3 4. right? So should filter, you can have a custom condition there when this filter should be called, and when this condition is returned true, this code is going to get executed right before calling the actual service. So based on this condition, if you want to add some custom headers, you want to intercept the request, you want to remove from something from the request that is going to pass to the actual service, you can do that inside the run method, right? So this is the thing. So this is the simple thing about the Joule filter, right? So just move back to the previous code that we had, right? We have pre-filter ready, we have mentioned it pre1 true, and this is the code that I have written. So we want to just log the what is the request method and what is the URL that it is going to call. Just we are doing the auditing of the request, right? So because it is the simple one, but basically you can do a lot of things with this, right? So this is the thing. So we have this class ready, but we have to make it as a bean, right? So we have two options. I can mark it as configuration, or I can make the instance of this. The second way is I can create a method public pre-filter, right? And return type pre-filter. So pre-filter, I can name it and return new pre-filter, right? So and annotate this as B. So basically the instance of this pre-filter should be known to the application Spring application context, right? So this is the one way that you can do, and other way you can just mention the configuration right here, right? Both you have to do one of these, right? So any of these is going to work for you. So this is about the pre-filter, which is if you remember the internal architecture, so pre-filter are going to intercept before actually serving the request, and we have similarly we have post filter, which is extending the Joule filter. Difference is filter type, we have to mention post. So this is going to execute when it is returning from executing the service, right? What I mean by this, so we have this application, right? So pre-filters are going to execute here, pre and post filter. When these are executed, when this is going, pre is going to execute, and when it is returning, post is going to execute, right? So let me show you the post filter. So we have post execute filter order, I have mentioned one. It is should filter return true, hard coded I have given it. You can give it some condition here, and inside the run method I want to log the response, I want to fetch the response, I want to get the status of the response, what it is. I can write that code here, right? So this is the request context, this is the context that is available throughout the Joule, right? When you have passing going to through the request pre-filter, and when you going out of the Joule, it is available throughout, right? So using this context I can get the response of the context, and with this response I can get the status, right? And inside the from this context I can get the response data stream, and then I can parse that response data as it is input data stream. I can read that is into string response data, right? So I can print that whatever response our service is returning, I'm going to store that in response data and going to. So I have to again set that response data into context that we have got, right? If we are not setting this, it is going to throw an exception because we already have consumed that data, that response, so it is not going to return anything to the actual caller. So I have to again set it back here. If you want to see the actual error, you just comment it out and execute your API gateway, you will see the actual error and why I have added it here, right? So if you're not logging this response data, you do not need to do this, right? But if you're taking this input stream, processing this input stream, it is closing that one we have finally, so it is going to, it is not, doesn't have any data to pass on, right? So I have to set it again back, right? So this is about the post filter, that I can intercept the response, because see the benefits here, right? So at one place you can have the logging of the request and response, right? So this is about pre-post, and then we have error filter. If during the execution there is any error, so the error filter is going to execute, and how it is identified: filter type, right? You can have many error filters, and execution order can be controlled from filter order. Should filter can be controlled from here. You can have custom condition, and then you can have this context, and you can intercept the actual error and what all things going on there, right? So error occurred and response, you can, if there is any, as it is error, there is not going to be any response of the actual service, then it is going to print null, or if there is any. Actually, return type of this is object, but we are mentioning it null, and this is the way it goes, right? So because it is not depending on the return type, so we are mentioning it null, right? So it is not going to affect anything that our actual service is going to get null. That doesn't mean here, right? So just to keep in mind, it is returning null because it has return type null. It has return type as object, right? So we don't have to return context or anything else. It is going to take care of all the steps internally, right? So we have pre-filter, post-filter, and error filter. So as I already have explained you, so just pre-second filter also we have. I explained you about the filter order. If we have two pre-filters, how that is going to be executed, filter order we have mentioned, right? So pre-second filter, we are going to see two pre-filters executed simultaneously, right? And this is the simple filter, right? So just want to explain you, if you want to have custom condition, you can have get the context, you can from the request you can get some parameter that you can that you are getting from the actual request. Based on that you can return uh, the you can wait or something, you can write the custom logic that you want based on the requirement, right? So basically in this simple filter we have device type. If it is broken, it is going to wait for some time and then going to call further filters, right? So just I do not want to execute this at this moment, so I have not added the add configuration annotation with this. And we have this pre-second filter, we have add configuration annotation and commented it so that we can see only one filter here. So we have one more filter, that is the route filter, right? So route filter comes after, route filter is going to execute after pre-filter and post-filter. So we have, if I talk about the sequence, we have pre, route, right? Then actual service, right? Then post, right? In between this, if any error is coming, error filter is going to get executed, right? And any custom filter that we have based on the type and execution order that it has. So we have actually four filters: route, pre-filter, post-filter, and error filter. And I have added the logging here, so we are going to see the things in log, right? So the our services, actually just stop it and run it again because we have done some changes, right? So execute this. So in the meantime, see the other services are running. So doctor service, it is running properly, patient service is also running, and disease service is also running. So we are going to call those one by one, right? So other services just have one endpoint that are their main controller, right? So if you want to know more about it, go to the first video and see more about it, right? So doctor portal gateway is running on this portal. Let me go ahead and access the endpoint that it has, right? Okay, so this is the endpoint 8100 doctor service and doctors portal, right? So let me refresh it, hit it again, right? So list of doctors is the response that we are getting. Let me go to the doctor portals gateway and see the logging that it has. See, pre-filter, route filter, post filter, and post filter, right? So inside the pre-filter request method we are getting get, and this is the URL that is being executed. Inside the route filter gets executed, and response status is 200 and response data is list of doctors. So we got the logging from all the three filters, right? Pre-filter got executed, which printed the request method and request URL that it has, right? And then we got the post filter. After pre-filter, we got the response from the route filter, which is printing inside the route filter, and then it processed the request and returned the response. And before passing on the response to the actual service, it is calling the post to log the response. We got the response status and response data, right? So as there was no error, so we didn't get any response from the error filter. So just to introduce the error, let me stop this disease service, right, and try to access this one, right? So it is going to call the error filter that we have, right? So let me go here, right? So doctor service we are calling here. Let me duplicate this tab, right, and clear the console here so that we can see the response from the error one, right? So disease service and diseases, right? So as our actual service is not running, so it is failed connection timeout we are getting here, right? Internal server error. Let me go to the logging part here. Error occurred, right? Response status this, error occurred, response is null. So we are getting the response from the error filter and post filter, right? So it is error filter is going to execute, post filter is going to execute, and pre filter is going to execute. So we got the response from pre filter inside route filter, and it is sending the error filter, right? Error during filter, we got the response. This is the response, this is the thing that we have logged inside our error filter. Let me show you that. Error occurred, so it is internally send error filter. It is found that error during filtering is there, so we have logged error occurred response, what response it is getting. So whenever it got the error, it is forwarding the error, right? So if I go to the uh, come down, so error occurred, whatever we want to execute inside this, we can execute it, right? So after this, it is going to process the post filter. Response status 500, we got that 500, error occurred, response is none, right? So again it is going to print the error filter, right? As it has not got any data, so that is why it has not printed that one, right? So I hope you got the basics about this pre post error filter. And if I want to configure the more than one filter, so I just explain you what I have written. Filter order is changed, right? And simple filter, you can have custom logic, right? So let me first show you the pre second filter that is here, right? So how the ordering is mattered and taken into account. Let me stop it and start it, right? So now we will see two pre-filters executed one by one, right, based on the filter order. So which one will be executed first, which has greater priority, right? So it has filter order as one, so it is going to execute first, and then we will see the response from this one, right? So as disease service is errored one, I am not going to execute it. So list of doctors, doctor service we are going to execute, and see the logging here. We are getting request method, pre-filter and pre-second filter, right? Both the filters got executed inside route filter, and then we got the response, right? And let me show you the simple filter that is there. Pre-filter is there, so let me add the add configuration annotation here, and it had some custom logic like this, right? Device type, and so as we are not passing anything from the doctor's portal, so let me mark it as true in both the cases so that it gets executed, right? And inside here we are going to wait for some time and then passing on the request, right? Pre-filter, so it is inside. Now we have three pre-filters, right? So first is this pre-filter, pre-second filter, then this simple filter. So this is the order they are going to execute because we have least priority for this. Let me restart the application again. Application is started, and let me hit this again. See, pre-second filter request method, first two pre-filters got executed, then inside simple filter. So inside simple filter it was waiting for some time, that is why it took time to return the response here, right? Because it is waiting for 20,000 milliseconds, means 20 seconds, right? Then it is returning the response, right? it is returning for, it is waiting for some time based on the condition that it has a random number and we have what logic we have written, right? So it is waiting for that time, then returning the then forwarding the request to next filter, right? So inside route filter, response, and all these things we get, right? So let me clear it again, show you again. So it is there. So it is waiting, it is inside simple filter. Inside simple filter, it is waiting for some time, then forwarding the request further, right? So this is all about the filters that we have, and we have seen how we can write our own filter, custom logics, and we can audit the request and responses, and we can change the status. And let me show you quickly one more thing that we can do with this debug. Let me mark it debug and start the application in debug mode. Just I wanted to show you something, what all the data that it that request context that we have, what all data it holds, right? And what all the things that we can do. So we can change the response also, right? Response type that it has. So just let me uncomment this and start it again, right? So we can intercept the response as well, right? What response actual service is returning based on the requirement, right? We want to keep our individual microservices private, and we can control what the clients are getting from the services at only one place, right? So what any common response that we want to return to, we want the client to know, so we can configure that in our API gateway here, right? So this is running in debug mode now. So let me go here. It is inside simple filter. It is because all the filters are in action now, so it is waiting. So when post filter is coming, we will get the debug here, right? So okay, so actually it was not running in debug mode, that is why it was not stopped here. But what the other thing that we wanted to show you, that the response that it has, earlier we were getting 200, but we modified the response at 500. That is why we are getting the response 500 here, and we can see the same here in browser also, right? If you open the, if you inspect this request, right, and see the developer mode and come here under the network, right, and refresh it again, so it is going to show you the request, right? So if you see the preview headers, and it is giving you the 500 response status. Earlier it was giving you 200. Again, let me start it in debug mode, comment it out. So we have seen how we can modify the response that it is returning, right? So next I want to show you what this context, what all other information this context holds, right? So let me stop it and start this in debug mode. Okay, application is started. Let me clear the console and hit the URL again. Refresh it, and now we have got the this here, right? So that is why. So let me go to the, we have already debug mode open, right? So let me open this context here. So if you put the debug, and you can get all the information, right? So this is all the things that it holds, right? So it has all the request Zuul, request headers, route host, request URI, what actual endpoint that it is hitting, you can print that also, what proxy it is going to call, so what is the name of that proxy. So it is taking the name from configuration here that we have given, right? Doctor service, that token, that key that is considering the name of the proxy, and what response it has here, right? So it is giving you all the filters that it has executed, right? So before coming here, so at any filter you can know what other filters has executed, response headers, ignored headers, request. So this is all that you can get from this here, right? So retrieval for circuit breaker, that I'm going to explain in the next video. So wait for that one, right? So this is all about the filter and all that we can do with the request context and all that stuff, right? So list of doctors, it has returned, right? Okay, it got the response now, right? So headers, request headers, response, it has not got the response yet, so it is stuck somewhere. So logging here, so it got the response now, right? So if you see, now we are getting the 200 response, right? So earlier we changed the response to 500 and reflected that in the browser. Now we are not doing anything. So what response it is getting from the third party service, gateway is returning same to the client here is this one, this URL, right? Further we get this URL in our services, in our front end service, in any other backend service to call the individual service that are out there, right? If you want to go through the documentation and all those stuffs, you can get that from here. So I'm taking all the references from here and other internet sources. You can go here, and this is the string initializer from where I'm creating the sample project, and that I'm showing you in the demos. If you want to know more about that, you can go through this playlist to know the brief about the API gateway and what all these things. So I think we have two videos more left about this. I'm going to talk about the authentication part, and before authentication I'm going to talk about the circuit breaker fallback. What if your service is not responding, then what API Zuul gateway, what it is going to do, right? So I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.